Welcome to Tech Startup Stories, hosted by Natalie Binns. This is the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of the B2B startup world.
Hi, I'm Natalie Binns, and I'm the host of Tech Startup Stories. This podcast is really designed to share the unique and challenging journeys of all the people that are building small startups to scale-ups in the tech space. My background? Initially, I was in sales, and then I moved into marketing, and I've been lucky enough to work with some amazing tech companies. But my passion is really startups. And that led me back to helping tech startups set up their marketing and go-to-market functions where the budgets are tight and the resources are few and far between. So let's get into this week's podcast. Hello. Welcome to the podcast. And today I have somebody that I've been speaking with for a couple of months now. And this is Aditya Jain from a company called Passionfruit. And he is the CEO and co-founder of a Martech business. And I'm probably going to butcher this, but as I understand it, you're an AI-powered end-to-end SEO platform. Adi, welcome to the show. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, certainly. Thank you so much, Natalie, for having me and Passion Fruit as a company as well on the podcast. So I think the main thing about Passion Fruit is what we are envisioning within the marketing space is we think there's a lot of data that's out there that remains unoperationalized because there are different silos within a marketing team. And SEO was one space we decided to target first because there was a lot of publicly available data. As search data is publicly available at very, very large volumes. And we thought it was the most underutilized and under newly invented space. So we've gone in, try to operationalize that data along with our experts, as well as some technology we built in-house. And the goal was we try to rewrite the ROI timelines and the impact we drive for our clients through that data and through the actions we take on that data.
So why do you think SEO is so important, particularly for marketing functions in businesses? Why is that such a big thing for you guys?
So SEO is one such medium through which you can present a user with your product when they're actually having high intent to buy your product. So if I show an Instagram ad or a YouTube ad, etc., those are disruptive technologies to provide a user an experience to experience my product. However, search is a very, very high intent, high focused consumer audience through which you can showcase your product. So that's why we think it's important. The second reason why I think it was even more important than usual was basically the average ROI that clients get from SEO. And when you look at those numbers, those are at least 5 to 10x higher than a typical other ROI channel. So that's why we thought this was a very, very important segment for consumers to look into, for companies to look into and explore.
Got it. And how did you personally kind of choose this as your idea, your kind of area for building a business? What got you excited about SEO?
So our first company, my co-founder and I started, was in the fintech space. And in fintech, what we realized was we could not compete with the banks with paid advertising. Luckily, we were along our journey, somebody recommended to us that we should try SEO. And that's when we started building a bunch of technology around SEO to optimize our visibility for our company. And as we started exploring that further and further, we realized how much impact it was driving for our business. So once we exited that company and we were thinking about what's next for us, SEO was always this thing that we were always drawn towards because we saw the impact it had for us. And then I think once we kind of narrowed down what exactly we want to do, it just made so much sense to begin our journey with SEO and then expand from there.
Great. I know you personally have sort of lived all over, and you know the business itself. You've set it to be a global business. I know that your head office is in the States. You've got folks all over. You've got people in the UK, Europe, also in India, and actually you're talking to us from India today. So you're a truly global organization. Why is that important to you?
So I think what we realized was with remote work becoming more popular, global talent was accessible to us. But what that also meant was we can service global clientele. And what we realized was local connections for clients is very, very important. So hand in hand, as we've expanded to any new geography, we've also tried to bring in talent from that geography so they understand our clients' target audience a lot better. And then the second big thing is, I think, being a global organization, we're able to function at a much higher pace than an average organization that belongs in just one time zone. So what we've done is we've created a buddy system across our organization where our teams transfer work as the time zone moves forward, and that's helped us ship products at a much faster pace than an average company in our field does, as well as operate on our clients as need be across the 24-hour period each day without having to overburden one particular team. And the third biggest advantage is, I think, depending on where you're from, the very different perspective on how work is or how you look at solving a solution. And this global perspective helps us have a lot of different brains around the same problem. And I think that perspective shift really helps us grow faster, as also think from very different perspectives.
Absolutely. What's been the most sort of challenging part of your journey so far at Passion Fruit?
I think the most challenging part is, I think there are two. So I think first is when you have a large team with mix of people remote and in person, keeping a unified culture where everybody feels driven by a singular mission statement gets harder the larger the team scales. So one big thing we've tried to onboard to try to vet that is be very, very mission aligned. So we have a couple of mission statements that we really try to take every new hire through so that even when they feel might maybe disconnected from their peers, um, from time to time, that mission alignment helps them kind of stay true to what we're doing and why we're doing it. And I think that really helps. The second thing is also servicing clients across different geographies has a lot of differences in terms of expectations, communication, and language barriers. So I think providing training where every client feels comfortable working with team members from around the globe, creating that comfort and creating that alignment is very, very important. So we've recently actually started investing a lot in customer success and in-person employee training to be able to bridge that gap and be able to improve that communication that exists between our client and our team members.
And how big's the company at the moment? How many people do you have?
So we're close to 50 people.
Okay, so growing quickly then.
Yes.
And in that journey, you sort of mentioned you've been responsible for building a fintech startup before, and then you exited and you've moved on to Passion Fruit. What kind of were the big learnings that you brought, apart from the obviously the SEO element, which you talked about, but aside from SEO, what have been the big things that you've kind of learned from that journey and brought across?
Yeah. So I think first big thing, which is actually a principle of ours, is basically this acronym called VICPIAS. What that basically means is what is the problem you're solving? I think not just as a company, but everything you invest in, um, be it a product, be it a process you create, I think being aligned with that is very, very important. What happens is we often go into product roadmap cycles and we build a lot of products that we think are interesting. Um, but unless you know what you're solving for, a lot of those just go to waste. And I'm not saying we haven't done that at Passion Fruit at times, but I think we've been more intentful about having that VIPIAS question being answered beforehand before we start building anything. And I think that's been really, really helpful in being very problem driven as opposed to value driven. Because then you can create a lot of value, but a lot of that value goes to waste when that's not solving a particular problem for your end customer. And I think that actually holds most true even for SEO activities because you're trying to solve for not SEO, but for the end customer your client is servicing. And the second thing is being as frugal as possible. Um, I think oftentimes, even when we're thinking about a $20 subscription, it's like, dude, it's $20. Let's just go for it. But what happens is that tech debt really accumulates very quickly. And oftentimes we've had team members come up and be like, it was just $10, $20, $30. Why don't we just get it? But we've been really, really, really intentful about being being pragmatic about anything we sign up for and having a clear reasoning for it. And what that's helped us do is actually buy so many months of runway that we otherwise would have already burnt through because of the additional tech that we would have allowed any team member to kind of take on. Um, and what that enables us to do is just go through a lot more iteration cycles without having the pressure of crazy amounts of burn or having to raise a lot of money. So that way we're more focused on building and servicing our clients as opposed to just always fundraising or trying to cut costs at the end of the month.
Got it. And with most startups, obviously the finance side of things is tough. And given that you've grown to sort of 50 people now, I'm sure there's been some great hires, some not perfect fits along the way. This is the way of the world. how do you ensure that you're getting the right people for the right roles? And also, how do you, sorry, second follow-up question, how do you ensure that you're hiring for the right roles at the right time? Because obviously, you need as many people as you can, as quickly as you can to do all the things. But getting the right people in the right jobs can sometimes be a challenge. How have you approached that?
Yep. So I think first, what we thought was hiring people for the right role and the right time. Those are like three very important questions, right? The right people, the right role, and then right time. Um, Breaking that down from right time, one thing a mentor of ours told us is having a strong bench is the biggest advantage you can have as a company. And we really started prioritizing that more recently, where we started hiring before we felt the pressure to hire for that role came in. What that enabled us to do was a new hire never felt the pressure that they have to start performing from day one. And for example, if an employee did leave the organization or had to take time off, there was no unnecessary pressure on their peers to take on the work that they had. And we did make this mistake earlier on, but since we've started focusing on having that spare capacity, it's really helped us reduce the pressure that each new hire or each existing team member feels if they're out of office or if they just join the organization. The second important thing is the right role. So what we've really done is there was this kind of KPI graph that we created from the onset, when we created really, really well-defined job descriptions, as well as KPI-driven metrics of what the first 15 days, 1 month, 3 months, and 6 months for each team member looks like once they join. What that did was it really helped an employee understand what are the expectations of them and how can they quantifiably measure that on if they're on the right track or not. And then we do daily catch-ups with their senior team leader, whoever it may be, so that they feel aligned to that. Um, and that's how we really align a potential hire with what they're joining the team for. And those metrics are shared with the person before they join the company so that they know that this is the right role that I'm being hired for and I'm the correct fit for that particular position. Now, lastly, the right person, I think that's a question I don't have the right answer to. The only advice we got was that we live by is, I think once somebody joins the organization, you have to give them time to adjust. But when you feel like there's a very big mismatch, I think it's important to part ways quickly as well. Where you'll be doing a disservice to both the individual as well as yourself if you're trying to prolong something that's just not a right fit. So one thing we're very transparent about is when we think things are not working out for us and a new hire, we're very vocal about that from the onset and make that clear. And then if they wish to part ways, we do provide them the opportunity to do so. And I think that's helped us also gain the respect of that new hire, where they also feel like this is not the right fit for them, and also prevent our organization from spending a lot of resources on somebody that might not be the right fit for that role longer term.
I think it's a really important topic, especially with the human element, because when you're running a business, it's very easy to focus on the statistics, the facts, the figures, the numbers. But at the end of the day, you're affecting somebody's life. And we've all been there. You've been an employee a long time ago. I've been an employee, every one of our listeners has been. And there's a right way and wrong way of dealing with that. We all know that, guess what, in the dating world, sometimes you don't have the right match. And I think that's exactly the same when it comes to business. Sometimes it's not a good fit for the candidate or the employee, just as much as it's not the right fit for the employer and the company. But making sure that both feel respected, appreciated and cared about in that journey, and understand that if it's not the right fit, it's better to be amicable and part companies sooner rather than later. It definitely prevents prolonging that pain.
100%, Natalie. Really agree there.
So you kind of started out, you did a few different roles, you were in marketing at one point. Um how did you know that you were comfortable taking that risk into being an entrepreneur and taking that leap from being a full-time employee to to kind of being a business owner? What kind of spurred you onto that? Did you always know that was going to be your path? Was it intentional, or did you kind of fall into it?
I think it was a mix of both. But I think the first reason why we started our first company, when we realized that what we wanted to do was, we were driven by a particular problem that we didn't feel like was being solved in the market at that. And when we felt really drawn towards solving that, and we started building as an idea on the side, there was something inside both me and my co-founder where we felt like, I think it's the right time to jump. And being an immigrant in the US, on a work visa, there was a lot more hurdles for us to cross before we could make that leap. So I think when that kind of internal feeling of this is what we have to do was so high, and no matter what the barriers were, we felt like we still wanted to pursue it. We knew that, okay, this is the right journey for us. So that's how we jumped in. And there were also like a lot of mentors and people around us that were the ecosystem that we needed to basically support ourselves and make that leap. But then after having gone through that, I was really driven by the entrepreneurial spirit and what it really takes to be a founder. Because of the exposure of problems and people you get to work with, I think it provides you just such a holistic experience, which is grueling for sure. But once having gone through that, I knew it was the right path for me. So that's why I just been continuing on that journey.
So, and you mentioned we a couple of times when you've been talking about the journey. And so you had a co-founder in your previous organization. Is it the same one? Is it somebody else? Have you brought your winning team together for the second time? What's going on there?
Yeah, so we have the same investors and same co-founder as the first time around. It's primarily because I think I see him more than his girlfriend sees him. So I feel like we validated that we can be good partners. And the same holds true for our investors. Same team, just loved working with them as well, and had a great experience the first time around. So just stuck through and wanted to go through that journey again with the same folks.
Right. So you haven't killed each other yet, which is great. But I'm guessing it's a very different organization to the first one. What have been the most obvious, apart from the product, and what you're selling? What's been the biggest difference that you felt going from the first company to Passionfruit?
Yep. So the first company, given that was in the fintech space, there was a lot of legal hurdles, and the average contract value for each customer, like our target audience, was very, very different. So first, with that legal hurdles, we spent a lot of time speaking with regulators and lawyers, etc., to get any product out, because of which our iteration timelines and product launch timelines were very, very different. Second was because our target customer was a general consumer that was buying our product, um, our go-to-market strategy was very, very different. There was no outbound sales motions. There was no formal pitch deck, stuff like that. So it was a very different sort of organizational structure, as well as a very different go-to-market motion. Now with Passion Fruit, we can ship 3 to 5 products every week. And given that, unlike even a typical B2B company, a lot of our products are for internal use. So that product shipping speed is just a lot more frequent, because of which I think you see just a lot more happening on a week-on-week basis, which is both exciting as well as very overwhelming for the product team to be continuously shipping and breaking things and then improving them. And second is, I think, the new go-to-market motion. As much as we're doing SEO for our clients, we have to learn how to do B2B sales and attend conferences and sell ourselves, which has been a completely new experience and very eye-opening in terms of what all weaknesses I had and what all I need to learn.
Got it. Got it. So when you're not working, what do you like to do?
I play a lot of pickle and paddle.
Okay. Do you ever get any time to travel?
So I travel a decent amount for work, especially because our clients are also spread out. So that's always great. I haven't been traveling much for pleasure, but hopefully in the coming months, I get a chance to do so. I do love traveling.
Good. That's good. That's good. So, what would you say to people that perhaps are in a similar boat to you? They're employed, they have aspirations to build their own business, but haven't perhaps taken the plunge yet. What would your advice be to those individuals?
I think there are a lot of problems that are exciting to solve. I think there are 3 questions you should ask yourself. First, has this problem been tried to be solved? Which in most scenarios is mostly going to be a yes. Second is, even if it's a yes, how much better is your solution that you're proposing to the world? I think second, the most important thing is founder market fit. I think you have to be very honest about why you have the right to be in this space and actually win in this space. I think that's part number two that you should really think through and before you go through the journey, because otherwise you end up questioning yourself on that journey a lot. And if you don't have an answer to that question, it's very easy to be demotivated and lose track when stuff starts to hit the fan. And I think third is just be passionate about what you do. I think like starting a company of your own or working at a company both have their own unique challenges. But if you really know why you're building what you're building and you feel truly passionate about it, you can really go through that journey. So I think that's that. And I think fourth, this is an additional point, but not every company needs VC money. So understanding how your business model might function and not just going through the traditional path that I need a lot of money to make this work, I think is very important to understand, because a VC funded company has a very different dynamics from what the financial model, what your take home and what your organizational structure will look like moving forward, and what the outcomes can look like. So I think it's very important to know what sort of business structure you need and how you want to proceed there.
Very good advice. So one of the things that Passionfruit have, I know you've just recently launched a CMO community. If somebody wants to join the CMO community, tell me a little bit more about it. What's it for? Why should I join if I'm a CMO listening to the podcast?
So the main reason we created this community was we realized CMOs, like the marketing world is going through a major transition, as a lot of other fields are as well. But CMOs kind of are at the top of this chain where they have to understand what to invest in, where to put their time and energy. So the goal of the community was to bring CMOs having a similar mindset together under one umbrella from around the world and be able to share insights, get access to one another, connect with one another, as well as get access to certain resources that we want to make available either through our partner ecosystem or as a company ourselves, and basically make an open community for people to be able to discuss, share, and learn. So that's why we've kind of created this safe space for them, where there's no branding or advertising. I know it's under the Passionfruit umbrella, but we don't use it as an advertising mechanism. It's more for people that we work with to come close to one another and be able to share insights and grow together.
Great. And how do I get involved if I'm not already in the community? I am, obviously, but for those listening,
You can send Natalie a message or me a message.
you can. You can definitely let me know, and I can bring you into the community. But sure. So we can also you can reach out to Addy as well.
Yes.
Lovely. Well, thank you so much for the conversation. Thanks for being on the show. It's been great to learn more about you and the company.
Thank you so much, Natalie, for having me. It's a pleasure to have been on the show.
That's it for this episode of Tech Startup Stories. Have a story you'd like us to share or a topic you'd want to cover? Reach out and we'd love to hear from you. Until next time, take care.